Please be seated. We could not have asked for better lessons for the Sunday when we are going to be gathering for our annual meeting. This is just, I couldn't have planned it better. So after Jesus calls his disciples, remember last Sunday, I'm doing a little replay of last Sunday. He calls his disciples, and then he starts healing people and goes out and heals people and cures people and makes them better. So he starts today, we hear people are starting to gather around him. They're coming from all places, coming towards him. And so he goes up a little bit of a hill, and he says, everybody, let's talk. Let's have a chat. Because he understands that people are getting pretty excited about this man. He is our Messiah, and here comes the fun part. We're going to be the ones who are going to turn over, and Rome's going to go, and woo, we're going to do this, just what we need. We've been waiting for this one. But he sits them down and says, let's talk. Because if you want to follow me, let's remember what this is about. Let's remember what God has always said. Because the Beatitudes just does two things. One, it clarifies who's are God's favorite people, and it tells them how they should be and how they should act in the world. And so those are the two things the Beatitudes does, because there had been a belief, and I think to some degree there still is, that the rich, the wealthy, the well-endowed, the strong, the ones who has many possessions, who's really smart, and has lots of recognition from our society, that those are the blessed ones. And that's how it used to be then, but let's be honest, we still think that's true. There's a little bit of that, isn't it? Yeah. And Micah had told the Israel hundreds of years before Jesus, that's not what I want from you. I don't want all these luxurious gifts to show how blessed you are and to show how you're my people. No, I want you to do justice and be kind and have a deep relationship with me. That's what I want of you. And so Jesus as well, God incarnate himself, comes back and says, let's make this clear of who God favors. Poor in spirit, those who mourn, meek, merciful, pure in heart, peacemakers, prosecuted, persecuted, reviled. That's who God favors. But this is not just a description of who the people are who are favored. It is also a description of the actions of God's people and what they are supposed to do. Carolyn Lewis, she does Working Preacher. This is what she says. It is a call to action. That the Beatitudes are a call to action to these people who have gathered, who are starting to be excited about this movement of Jesus. And this is their call to action of what they should be doing. Because it's not just about who they are, but it's about what they are supposed to do. Those who mourn, that's an action. Those who are meek, and not this meek is not shy. We got this, I don't know why we have this thing that meek is shy. If they call Moses the most meek person, let's think about Moses. Didn't he have some chutzpah? Didn't he say to God, you can't take care of, you can't abandon us. You brought us out here, so now finish your job. So Moses represents what meekness is, because Moses is humble and he says, I can't do that, God. I know my limits. I can't do that. But then he's also clear about what he can do and does it. So this meekness is a sense of judgment, of what you're able to do and say, no, I can't do that, but also be willing to do what you do know and say, oh, no, I'm not a good cook. It's like if Steve said, no, I'm not a good cook. That's not meek. That's a lie. We all know what good cook Steve is, right? But he says, I can't work with my computer. That's being fair, being honest about what he can and cannot do. And that's what meekness is. That we are clear about what we can and cannot do, but that means that when we can do it, we do. To be merciful. That's an action. To have mercy on people. To be peacemakers. You got to do something. To be a peacemaker, you got to make peace. And to be willing to be persecuted, it means that you've done something that goes against the grain, even if it's painful. That is what the Beatitudes are about, who we are, because it does say we are people who are poor in spirit. We are people who are humble. We are people who are pure of heart. So it's both who we are supposed to be, how we're supposed to act. And so we are called to be God's faithful people. We are called to be the disciples of Jesus today. And after this service, after we do celebrate and take communion and become one body with God, we are going to have an annual meeting to talk about what have we done and what do we want to accomplish? Where do we want to go from here? And so I hope we take the Beatitudes as our call to action so that we can be part of this Jesus movement in 2023. And one thing also is, as we do this together this year, to remember the letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians. He's writing this letter because he's really disappointed in them. We heard last week of how there were all these divisions among them. And we hear this week again reminding them that there is no Jew, no Greek, that we are one body. And so as we do this work together this year, let us not say, oh, I'm for the altar guild. No, I'm for the choir. No, if you're not doing, I'm for racial justice. That's the most important thing. No, it's about the vergers. We all have our gifts. We all have our talents. And so together, we become the hands and feet of Jesus. And so I can't be the great cook that Steve is, right? But I have my gifts, right? Every single one of you has your gifts. So together, and valuing and respecting each other's gifts. And to say, that Deacon Victoria, all she talks about is racial justice. There she goes again. And the beloved community, right? Or, oh no, there's Catherine. We need to make this place pretty. I don't know. If the flowers aren't just right, it's just not right. But each one of us brings that gift, that passion, that desire to make this place a better place. Without the people crying out for justice, without the people calling out for joy and beauty, where would we be? My mom always said, es que Minerva, no todos somos iguales. We're not all the same. Y dale gracias a Dios and give thanks to God for that. That's right? We're all like, woo, 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 woo. Oh my God. But if we're all just very quiet all the time, and oh yeah, also a little ump, right? But all of us coming together, making this place better, making this place what Jesus calls it to be. Not me, not you, but what Jesus wants for all of us. And so let us listen to Jesus' call to action and follow him to do justice, to love kindly, and walk humbly with our God. Amen.
Amen.